Welcome to the final event of the main conference days of PyCon 2016. I have a few last items to go over, but before I do so, we have a surprise visit from our coordinator of diversity this year, Jessica McKellar. She said she has something to say, so give her a big hand.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, folks. I love PyCon. PyCon is sort of like Christmas for me. It's this one time every year where I get to see so many of my friends from the internet, from the Python community that I only really get to see once a year. So I love this place, and I'm so happy to be back. And I really did. I said several months ago, Brandon and I work together at Dropbox, and I said a couple of months ago, I sort of have a thing that I'd like to say. Is there a way that we could squeeze me into the schedule somewhere? And he said, oh, you can give the quote-unquote closing remarks. So that's what I'm doing. And there's a keynote after this, so stay for that for sure. But I did have a little thing that I wanted to say. So this is it's almost like a lightning talk about breaking the rules. So I have spent an inordinate amount of my adult life and time participating in the Python community. I'm a former director of the Python Software Foundation. I've been PyCon's diversity chair for several years. Back when I was in Boston, I was an organizer for the Boston Python user group. Thanks. I've spent, it's actually sort of important to me that Python and the Python community stay alive and healthy, because Python is the only programming language that I've ever used. So I need it to work, because it's like the thing that I know how to program, and if I want to have a software job, I need to be able to keep using this language. So Python is very important to me. And I also, I get to participate in experiences like this, which I'm extremely proud of. So I care a lot about the Python community, but I have a secret to share with all of you, which is that it was never actually about Python. I love you guys, but it was never actually about Python. This has actually, for the last many years, been about systems. And I'm going to spend like 5 minutes explaining what I mean by that and why I think it's an important thing for me to share with you. It's been about systems. What I mean by this is, learning how to program is a profound experience. Programming changes the way that you think about and debug and interact with the world. When you learn how to program, you learn a set of rules. You become fluent in those rules. You become a systematic debugger within those rules. You work with other people to break down and solve problems, to build software, to build libraries, to change the language and the ecosystem to make it better. So you learn the rules, and then you learn that you can change your environment and that you can change the rules. So programmers, when you learn how to program, you have this opportunity to experience mastering a system that you know that you can change. And I think we forget sometimes that what this is coming from is that the tenets of free software give us explicit permission to do this. I think many of us are familiar with this, but it's sort of deeply baked into it, integral to open source communities these days, that you have the ability to study the programs that other people write and to change them and distribute and redistribute them. And I think that we can sometimes, because it's so embedded into our lives as programmers in an open source community like Python, I think we sometimes take for granted what a powerful collective mindset to be in that is. And when we take it for granted, we can sometimes forget to challenge ourselves to carry this very powerful mindset into our lives outside of open source communities. So programming has rules, but you can change the rules. But the reality is that there are many other things, many other systems that have rules, and you can change them, whether or not people tell you that you can. Everything that is important, everything that is worth fighting for is a system that you have the power to change, even if nobody told you the rules or that you could change them. There are software systems. There are hardware systems. I think the most important systems are people systems. And this is what it's actually about for me. So this is why I teach people to program. The reason why I invest so much of my time and my life into enabling other people to learn how to program inside and outside of the Python community is because programming changes the way that you think about and debug and interact with the world. Programmers have this really unique opportunity to master a system that they know that they can change. And if you realize that you can do this in one context, maybe you realize that you can do this in another. And we need as many people as possible on the planet to believe that about themselves. I'm looking at all of you as I say this. And the reality is that we very rarely have the luxury or the comfort, frankly, of the explicit permission that free software gives us. In general, in the systems that we interact with in the world, in particular the people systems, nobody's ever going to invite us to change the system. Nobody's ever going to tell us what the rules are. Nobody's going to tell us how to participate. Nobody's going to remind us that we have the power to debug the system and deconstruct it and change it and make it better. And that's really all that I wanted to say. As we give a joyful goodbye to another PyCon, as we go back to work and to school and to our broader lives, I wanted us to reflect together for just a moment on the fact that we all have the power to change the system, and that we should and we could look around us at the systems that could and should be better, and we should do something about it. So please, as Brandon talks, as Lars talks, as you go out of here today, don't forget that you have that power. Have the confidence to use it. Don't forget to share it. And don't waste it. That's all that I wanted to say.
Though I only have a few small items of business to wrap up. We will see the closing keynote, and then I'll be back up, and as is traditional, we will close the conference with a rousing thank you to our volunteers. So how many people showed up for PyCon this year? Raise your hand. No, I'm just kidding. The total count will sound a little big to you because it includes every single badge that was printed and handed to someone arriving at the registration desk. It might not have been obvious to you, but in addition to those of you who are in this room because you have full conference passes, some people could only afford or take the days off to attend a tutorial or two, and they had tutorial passes, but those count in that number I'm about to give you. And then there are expo hall only passes. When a vendor brings a few people that will spend all their time in the expo hall, we don't charge them for a full conference attendance, but they also receive a badge, and they also will be included in this count. Last year, the second and final year that we were in Montreal, we badged 2,924 people, making that the largest PyCon that had happened to date. Happy to announce that this year we badged 3,209 people here for PyCon. I am to announce the winners in the men's and women's categories of the 5K. They were Carrie Hughes Comrick and Samuel Wu. Great runs, guys. And the individual times were quite impressive. I cannot run that fast. The PyLadies auction was yesterday evening. How many of you were at the PyLadies auction? I heard some stuff was sold, bicycles, art, and all kinds of things. The PyLadies auction raised $16,000 for the PyLadies. And if I have the story straight, the PyLadies at a lunch today were gifted by conference organizers around the world with passes to many of the conferences coming up this year, and they've decided to spend this money they earned on scholarships. They have the passes now. They'll be combining that with flight and lodging in order to send people to those conferences full fare. Next year, it's 2017. The count is getting rather high, isn't it? Year 2017, PyCon will have its second and final year here in Portland, Oregon. You will be happy to know that we dodged Memorial Day. But it is hopefully late enough in May. I know this year was kind of unique for our students and professors because we didn't land on top of finals or April classes. It will still be middle to late May, and we hope that means, again, that a number of you are already out of class in college and better able to attend if that's your phase of life. What about 2018? It will be slightly earlier in May. Right now, we are set up to have PyCon 2018, 7th through the 18th of May in Cleveland, Ohio. And we thought, why not twice? 2019 will be in Cleveland, Ohio. And as you prepare to go out into the world and to leave here, I especially want to be encouraging you to support, if possible, to get involved in all of the other Python events through the year. As many of you know, PyCon sold out this year. Many, many weeks ago, we had to answer emails. Again, that's because of the size of the venue and things like that. We weren't able to admit more people, so we had to answer people who had desperately wanted to come, who had just finally, they'd asked 6 months before, and the permission from work had finally come through, only to find it was sold out. We had entire companies that had been planning to come, but we were out of both booths and registration, so I believe there was a 35-person team that wanted to experience PyCon together and couldn't. One problem is that with the way the contracts and our organization is set up, it's not clear if PyCon is going to become a 4,000 and a 5,000 and a 6,000 person conference. It's not clear that the PSF wants to take on that bigger risk year after year. It would move us to cities with bigger and therefore more expensive venues. We don't believe we could keep our prices the same rate. And it would mean just more and more people having to all fly one place each year to experience this. What are some of the alternatives? I hope that you do not go a whole other year before experiencing this again. I hope that you don't have to wait 12 more months. I hope that you will find or create or nurture meetups, regional conferences, PyOhio, PyTennessee, national conferences, and conferences for whole parts of the world like PyCaribbean. Review yesterday evening's lightning talks if you want to see all of the excited organizers creating PyCons around the world. If you have particular interests, SciPy, PyData, I see there's now a GeoPython conference, Plone conferences, and then specific weekend events like those run by the Django Girls. I think that the story in coming years, as the size of the Python community is just exploding with our popularity in education, our popularity in data, I don't think the story here is that PyCon becomes huge and expensive and moves into that echelon of really expensive and hard to get to conferences. I think the story of the next few years and the story that is already happening with PyData and SciPy and these other events is that we become distributed, is that we begin more and more to take this experience that you've just had and take it elsewhere and take it to other people. All right, that's the end of my editorializing.